We all knew Mexico was on the schedule. Richmond down to one date as a result of that. Beyond that, I think no real surprises in the Cup schedule for next year, Dustin. Pretty much everything else, I think, had leaked out at some point. No, as far as what we knew, some dates shifted around. Sonoma moves into July. New Hampshire, we had heard, was going into the fall.
I mean, I think some of that is significant is the playoff races change. Obviously, Darlington, Daytona becomes the regular season finale again. Darlington goes back into the playoffs. You have Worldwide Technology Raceway and Gateway in the playoffs for the first time. New Hampshire returning to the playoffs for the first time since 2017. In making those moves, Homestead moves into the spring, so you lose Homestead out of a playoff spot, and obviously Atlanta was previously announced as moving out to be part of the in-season tournament next summer. So, but again, a new track at Gateway in the playoffs. New Hampshire not back in a while, and I think some people will be disappointed, at least the competitors, in losing a place like Homestead because everybody really liked that type of track, and I think they're still. Some people would say they'd like to see the finale back there at some point because of just the type of racing there. But, maybe someday.
I think that's probably my one heartbreak of the new schedule is that we're losing Homestead as a playoff racetrack. But at the same time, what we gain is a lot of pretty straightforward racetracks in this playoffs. I mean, starting them at St. Louis. I say that we had a surprise winner there this year with Austin Cindric, but that was a race that was going to come down to Ryan Blaney and Christopher Bell vying for the win. And we've heard a lot of teams make the comparison already from Gateway to Phoenix. So if you're going to have something that's representative of what they're going to be fighting for the championship, I think that's a really great place to start. Same thing with New Hampshire as another 1 mile oval. Again, Phoenix is sort of its own beast, whereas Gateway and New Hampshire are their own flat tracks. But the one I'm really excited about is us going to Mexico City for the NASCAR Cup Series to be going international. It's something that NASCAR's leadership has been talking about for quite some time now. To see that come to fruition at a track where NASCAR has already run with the Xfinity Series for those 4 years back in 2005 through 2008. I'm really excited to see what that turnout is, especially with a guy like Daniel Suarez, who actually has some home ties there.
Well, and the other big change in the playoffs, and we talked about this before because we'd heard it was going to happen, is Talladega moving into the round of 8.
Yeah, that's going to be big because your chances of getting into Phoenix could be greatly impacted by what happens there. Do you get caught up in something, or do your competitors get caught up in it, or is that something that you can get a win? And so that one it'll be fascinating to see how people race that one. And if they, it'll be interesting to see how much, there's always teamwork, but how much even more, obviously there was the talk of, should Kyle Busch have gotten help from like Parker Retzlaff as opposed to Parker pushing Harrison Burton by at the end. But, when I asked Kyle Busch about it this week, he said, look, Parker wasn't even in the Chevrolet meetings. So if he's not in the meetings, then you can't expect him to have to worry about those things. But I'm sure everybody will be in those meetings. It'll be interesting to see how the manufacturers do that, for Talladega when you've got, 12 guys, 8 guys trying to race for 4 spots.
I'm fascinated by this one because I feel like there's almost less random risk of those 8 guys getting involved in something because it's a smaller number of them, right?
That makes it a little bit more interesting is how it will. I think that's what some people talked about is just that notion is if it will make as big of an impact. Because
when you only have 8 of those guys as opposed to 12, you can control your destiny, you would think, at least a little bit more. It's a little bit less, I don't know, chance given than it is right now in the round of 12. Listen, it's super speedway racing. Things are going to happen. We've seen it for I don't know how many years now. Really, you can go back the last 25 years of this style of racing. A crash is likely to happen, but you can take chances as a driver to be up at the front of the field to minimize those risks. How they do that in 2025 when it's a round of 8 semifinal race, the middle race of that round, it's going to be really, really fascinating.
We got Lime Rock, the road course in Connecticut, is appearing on a NASCAR schedule for the first time in a long time. I can't remember if it's ever been on the schedule before or not.
Can't recall.
It's been on the IMSA schedule, obviously,
yes.
for a long time. Well-known track, but
Yes.
it's appearing on a NASCAR National Series schedule now, Dustin.
Well, that, and you've also got Rockingham. So for all those fans who've been crying about, NASCAR returning to Rockingham, I guess that means that Rockingham will be sold out, and there'll be a tremendous crowd and, probably standing room only crowd for
There
the
should
Xfinity and truck race next Easter weekend. So otherwise, then, I guess be quiet.
I was going to ask about this because, Dale Earnhardt Jr. got behind the whole North Wilkesboro thing and kind of led the hue and cry to get North Wilkesboro back on the schedule. I haven't heard the same clamoring to get Rockingham back on the schedule that I did to get North Wilkesboro back on the schedule. And a lot of it, I think, Zach, was because Dale Earnhardt Jr. was behind the effort, and he hasn't been behind this Rockingham effort. Frankly, I was kind of surprised to see Rockingham back on the schedule.
I was a little bit surprised myself, but very pleasantly. I think we've seen great racing at that track over the years, whether it was Cup Series through 2004 or even about 10 years ago when the Truck Series made its return there for a couple of years. The place puts on, it's such a unique racetrack, puts on such a great show. We got multi-lane racing, so to have the Xfinity cars back on track there, along with the Truck Series for a standalone, it should be packed. I'm hopeful it is. It is very much out there all by itself, but if it's going to be Easter weekend on a Friday, Saturday, why not do it? If this is the right way to try to bring it back. If it's going to come back, it's going to be like this.
Yeah, and I don't know if I would say that Junior isn't supporting because look, obviously he was more visible with the North Wilkesboro because he was involved with the iRacing, scanning that track and involved in that project for a long time. And again, that was a track that, look, it had tried to come back. They did it. It didn't work out, and it looked like it really was going to be gone, and that was going to be the end of it. And obviously getting some money from the state after COVID, and the same thing that Rockingham got some money. Those were significant contributions. Otherwise, I don't think either of those tracks would be hosting NASCAR races beginning next year. So I think, look, you've got NASCAR races at Rockingham next year, North Wilkesboro and Bowman Gray, along with Charlotte and Darlington. For fans in the Carolinas, and for fans who like throwback races, what more do you want? NASCAR's gone to Mexico City and looking at, trying to go elsewhere and look at some other areas and look at some different communities. But, for the old school fan, I think they've got to really like the 2025 schedule.
Kind of took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, I feel like for all the talk about NASCAR and its roots, what more grassroots could we possibly have on a National Series schedule at this point with Bowman Gray, Rockingham, North Wilkesboro, to your point. We've still got old school tracks like Martinsville and Darlington on there as well. It's a little bit of everything, because then you've also got races in downtown Chicago and Mexico City. It's everything. So I think there's a nice healthy balance of everywhere, that every kind of market you could imagine, except for maybe the Pacific Northwest.
Where's the dirt track race?
And they tried that, and hey, if you're not going to support it, not going to have it.